Trading the foreign exchange market carries high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Trading on margin, utilizing leverage can carry an even higher level of risk that can lead to a complete loss of investment funds. So before deciding to trade the foreign exchange market or using any of our software alert products, you should carefully and diligently consider your personal investment objectives, level of experience, and risk tolerance. There is a possibility that you could potentially sustain significant loss. You should not invest any capital or trade that you cannot afford to lose. It is your responsibility to be aware of and understand all risks associated with foreign exchange trading and to seek professional advice from an independent certified financial advisor if you have any doubts. Auvoria Prime does not exercise trading authority over your trades. You and you alone exercise discretionary trading authority over every trade.
We have some red for 8:30 Canadian dollar. We have some oil inventory reports, crude oil inventory reports at 10:30. A lot of some red for Canadian news, and then this afternoon at 2 o'clock, we have some FOMC news coming out from 2 to pretty much till later on this evening for the Aussie. So after about 2 o'clock this afternoon, be aware of what you trade, and it may be no volatility, it may be a lot of volatility, but usually before these news announcements, things get pretty range bound and very tight before the announcement. So, and then just before the announcement's made, you'll start seeing some moves making. CPI report, keep that in mind. That one kind of burned us last week or last month when we weren't paying attention to that one at 8:30. Had a big move, and we got caught in some trades that we didn't want to be caught in. So keep that one in mind. And then we have looking to see what's strong, what's weak. We're looking at, I like looking at these bottom two timeframes primarily. The British pound strong, the euro is weak, pound strong, euro is weak. Pound strong, euro is weak, and here the pound strong and euro is kind of catching up. So we're looking at the Swiss franc and the pound and the CAD for strength initially, and looking at weakness on the dollar, euro, and Swiss franc on the lower time frame. So keep that in mind. Let's go to the charts. And this is the German 30. I just sort of drew this one out this morning. And you can see actually it's sort of range bound between this level and this level. When it did break, we had a little, on a 15-minute chart, we did have a little zone right there where this, where the fips are right now. But if it breaks through the bottom, it's going to probably head on out to, this bottom, let's see where we are here. Let's go back on the higher time frame. Where it is right now, if it breaks this, the 100% retracement is pretty much right at, or the 20% retracement of this move is coming pretty much right at the 100% target of if it breaks this zone. So as we had a strong move up, came back down, hung around the 50% area, and then if this area breaks, it came up to retest it, came back down, testing it again, and now we're going to see if it breaks through the bottom and comes out. And if it does, we're going to be looking at this area down here, these three lines for the target. So we'll have to watch this this blue zone real tight this morning, see if it bounces, it heads back up again, if it stays range bound, or if this thing breaks, we're looking at it to come on down and retesting this level down here. That's the German 30. And right now in the 15 minutes, seems like a nice little bounce, came back up, retested, made a new zone. But this is the main region that we're looking at here. There's the lower 25, upper 25, and we're seeing where it's going to come. Right now, there's a nice little pullback, strong move out of here, come back down, retest, see if there's any more seller buyers down in this area. And I'm going to be looking for an area, something like this, where it's going to retest this area, going to bounce. And if it bounces off of this, we could put a stop just below the green zone, which would be that's still pretty high. That'd be more of a swing trade here. That's about $25 stop, and then for the target would be on up here to, that'd be an $89 target. So that'd be a 4-to-1 trade, but this is a pretty thick zone right in that area. Go to a 5-minute chart, it may not look quite so bad. That's only about $15 to, again, maybe looking at this area, $75. So I'm looking for it to come down, see if it bounces off this little trend line that I've projected here. And I'm just going to put it right here at the 11% retracement, right below wherever the price is. And as the price moves across, I can just slide this down. But I'm looking at this as a target area right here for a bounce to head back up again. So we'll keep an eye on that. Any questions, comments?
Nothing.
No, nothing.
No.
And let's see, let's go to, we said the euro is weak primarily. So let's look at the euro CAD. CAD was strong. Let's see what they have here. And we're just hunting for trades, just looking to see what trades looks like they might work out. Right now, this is pretty well range bound. Nothing on this one. We do have moving averages crossing over, but I'd be looking at it. On this one, I would be looking at this green zone to hold and maybe come back down and retest this area. But it's got to get through. If this little area right in here is going to be about the middle of the retracement from this point to this point. So if I draw this one, this would be the range up I'd be looking at. This would be the middle zone I'd be looking at. This is my middle third. So the price comes into here. If it gets into like this level, these are my orange lines basically. Can't grab it. And then up here is the upper third. So that's the range. Look at it. It's coming into the middle zone. I would expect it to come into one of these two sections between these orange lines, get a bounce, and then maybe come back up and retest. We have a trend line coming up. Here's the high pivot high, pivot low. Here's the retest of the pivot high. We have our anchor. We have our first test. There's the anchor. There's the hit. Now we're looking for the third hit along this trend line as it comes back up. This one we can probably maybe try taking a short as it comes back up into this area, and then come on down to look for a trend, which I'm going to be using the trend line from here to where we started this thing and to that area. So right now this is where the trend is projected.
Quick question for you, Al.
Okay.
You drew the fibbo on the German. Was that on the 15?
This is on the, actually this was on the 30.
The German 30.
Sorry, this is the German. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was on the 15. I'm pretty sure I drew it on the 15. See, here's a 15-minute chart. Basically, yeah, I put this on the 15-minute chart. Do it from this pivot high, this pivot low. Here's a lower high.
Okay.
I like looking to see where the highs and lows for the day are. And I go back for the day and see if it's getting higher highs or higher lows for the day. So basically, it's like, in all essence, I'm drawing like looking at the a daily candle to see what the range was. I look at the next daily candle, see what the range was. And you can see this was a lower high, higher low. And right now it's retesting. So it broke. There was a trend line on here for yesterday's. This was yesterday's low right in here. And so there's a trend line. Here's yesterday's high. So we have the previous day's high, previous day's low. Yesterday was an engulfing candle, made our 2 points, our pivot high, pivot low. And now today it broke out of the bottom, and now it's retesting this area right in here, in which you can see. If it breaks this, that means it's looking for making lower lows from 2 days ago, in which case then you'd be looking at starting to see where the next trend to the downside below this area is. That's why I say this is going to be a critical area today on this German 30. But yeah, if a good place to start when you're drawing these is just see where you have a daily high, daily pivot low, and inside candles for the rest of the day. Like if this was the high, this was the low, and the candles were in here, I would use this one. But if you go back a day or two, it's usually pretty enough, gives you enough room to see what the daily price action is. So basically we have a candle, engulfing candle. Now we have a lower high, lower low, or perhaps a soon to be lower low off of this one. If this point gets broken, now this thing's starting to trend to the downside. We have a little bit of here's a high, here's a lower high. That's a significant area right in here. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess the quick question is though, is there a reason why you would draw it on the 15 regardless of that as opposed to like the hour?
No, I start with the 15 and see if I can find what I'm looking for on the 15-minute. If I can't, I'll go to a higher time frame until I find it. And sometimes I'll check the next higher time frame to see if I found this area right here, I'll go to the next higher time frame and see, well, what happened before that and see where the next move. So this is a huge move right here, but this is where it's been hanging out in the last couple of days. So I do know now that if this thing breaks, my overextended targets are down here. And if you look here, when my first target, at first I drew this thing, it was over here. And if you look and see where the 100% retracement from this area here, the 100% target zone have been right here at the 100%. This is 20%, and you can look right over here. Here's where this pivot is. So this is a very significant pivot point, and this is just basically off of the overextension of this area where the price has been hanging in. So from here to here, the 100% target is down here, and the 20% zone is right at the end of this little wick right here. So I did mark this just because it's a very significant area. If this thing breaks, we're looking at this whole area down here as a new target. So this could be a very significant. But usually when I start drawing, I usually start with a 15-minute chart to see what the price action looks like. And I keep going until I find where I get the range, and I get a pivot high, a pivot low, and the price in between. And then I figure out where, because if the price is in between this high and this low, then I know that that's the range it's been in going sideways. It's been trending all over the place inside that range. It trends down, trends up, trends down, trends back up again. So this is where the playground is. Once this gets broken, I'm gonna look and see where my next area is. It's gonna be all the way down here. And then we'll start taking and drawing it from the high to the low, the retrace. When it comes back to the middle, I'll be using that for the reference. And this will probably be some points where it's going to be bouncing off of. So maybe I'll see what that's going to look like as the day progresses here. But it did break this trend line. Here was the anchor. Here was the hit. Here was the retest of this still a higher low, or there's a low, here's a higher low. Then we had the break. And so right now I can be looking at I can remove these other Fibonacci lines on this. I can move those fib lines, I'll delete that, get rid of those lines. And now I could go to my lower time frame and see which way is it trending. Here's the first, and I can redraw this now looking to the downside. Here is a strong move down, small pullback, strong move down, probably get a bounce off of here. Once this thing bounces, I'll probably start looking at drawing this thing from a bounce to the up. I'll be looking for I said we're looking for the bounce off of here, looking for it to come on up. relatively strong. This is not strong. This is strong. Wait for it to come up, maybe retest this area. If it comes up just short of this, if it can't close above this, then I'm going to be looking for, it could possibly be going lower and this being the new target. If I get a nice move up where it comes up, closes, then I'm going to be looking for a pullback. Perhaps down to here, that's be about the 50%, 60% line. And then I'd be looking for the next move up. And then this would be my new little zone right in here for, I still use my stop down below, but my next target would be up in this area. Comes back down, gives me a crossover, then I'd be looking for that for the target. If it crosses over that and closes, then I'm gonna be looking for this to come back, perhaps maybe come down, retest this, continue this trend line. And then we can go up to, we have the next move to perhaps up to there. But this is what I'm looking for off of this move, looking for a rejection of the trend line, wherever that may be. Looking for it to come on up and then start taking out these little zones right here. Again, I don't want just a wick up here. I want a 5-minute candle. I want it to come up and close above this, then buy the pullback. Here's the anchor. And we're going to see if this thing's going to hit over here. This is a projection. If it bounces, then we're looking for this move, comes back up, and now it's going to start be looking for a new trending where we're having a trend reversal. Okay.
Question for you.
All right.
Everyone is talking about order blocks. Do you use them? I'm not sure what that is. Do you know what that is?
I've never used them, and I don't really know what they are. That's a new terminology to me. Not familiar with it. I know there's a lot of things going on right now, like with binary options and binaries, and I don't know what all it is, and a lot of it's real fast moving type of trading. A lot of people are getting excited about it. I played around with the binary options a little bit, and I just couldn't get any confirmation. I couldn't get any consistency with it. So I may address it at some point in time once I find somebody that knows what they're doing with it. But for right now, there's a lot of new stuff coming out that just not really that familiar with it. Not saying that there's anything wrong with it. I'm a little bit old school in a lot of ways, where I know what's been working for the last few years, and I'm kind of sticking with that. And they'll probably, sometimes it may stop working. I don't know, but when it does, then I'll address some other issues. But right now, just kind of stay with the stuff that's been out there for a while. Yeah, I'm not sure what order blocks. I guess I can only assume that the order blocks are, you just they can take in like a block of, say you have 5 lots or 5/10 of a lot that you want, and you may say, I'm going to buy one here, one here, one here, and do a block of orders where you have different prices. That would be the only thing I can think of. That'd be the closest thing I can think about what that means.
Well, I've asked Daniela if she could put a small description of what that means, because I don't know what that means either.
So anyway, let's see, nothing there, nothing.
There was something in the chat, from Fernando, possibly going short on the euro. I believe that sign is a yen.
Euro yen, yeah, that's yen. Euro yen. Euro yen short. Let's take a look at it. Pull up our charts. And euro yen. Okay, so I'm on start with a 15-minute chart. I'm looking to see what some ranges are, so I'm going to check and see what this pivot high is. That's 41 pips. That's pretty. That's not a lot. This one's already broken it. I'm going to look at this for a pivot high, but now I can figure out where my low is over here to the left. So I'm going to go to a next higher time frame. I'm going to my 30-minute chart. Okay, so here's the pivot high. Here's another high. Here's my upper trend line. Okay, so we know that this high was made. It was pulled back, rejected, came back up, tested it again, rejected. So here's a high and the lower high, and this got broken out of the bottom. The fact this got broken and closed, I'm going to be looking at, come on over here to see where did this move start, and I'm going to say probably right about in this area, because here's a strong move up. Here's some red candles. This is where it took out. You can actually even see there's a little arrow right here. That's not a bad area to be saying, okay, if this is where it took out, here's where the pullback was. But I'm going to take the Fibonacci all the way from the last pivot low before it crossed over this moving average. But before I do anything, I'm going to put all my other moving averages so I can see what my references are. Everything's moving down in the right direction. It did break through the 200, so that means it's got some push to the downside. And so I'm going to be looking at this pivot high and this pivot low and seeing where the middle zone is going to be, because the middle zone is going to be somewhere in here. So I'm going to draw it from here to here. I'm going to check my ranges to see what kind of range I have in between these, this 35 and 50 pips zone here. And right now I've got 12 pips. That's a nice size pip value between these zones. So we're going to keep this. So we're going to go with the 38. These are my target zones. And you can see right now, if I'm I'll finish drawing this first. Go to my shapes, go to my rectangle, get my upper 25 right here. This is the higher time frame. Lower 25, higher time frame. Okay, and now we're looking. Now here's the strong move down. Here is this was this is where it left the 20% zone. It pulled down, came back to here. This was the first move, wave 1, wave 2. Now it's working on wave 3. So I'm going to be looking at, and we have wave 3, and on a 5-minute chart, you can see that it closed below. And so right now we're looking at it heading on down to, I'd be looking at this for the initial target right now. It broke through the first one. Here's the middle zone. We have a little bit of a pullback. We have a little trend line coming in this way. So it actually looks like this could be a good little, this is a very shallow trend, but a trend nonetheless. This was the big move. This is okay. This is where the euro or the yen started taking control over the euro. The euro is still weak, so you wouldn't be trading this to the downside. So I'm going to be looking at, here's a strong move down, here's a pullback. I'm going to draw my fibs. Now I'm going to be looking for my target zones for the pullback. I like seeing that especially on a shallower pullback, I like seeing the 23 to 50% zone on this. So I'll draw that in here. Here's the 23 to the 50. You see it did pull back. Now we're looking like it's going to go. This looks like it's going to be a good short. Nothing down below here. 15-minute, no targets at all. I'd say once it breaks through here, we could take this thing short. I'm in. This thing's got a lot of movement to it. This would be my target right here. This would be the first target. So I'm going to put my 7 pips target in here. 15 pip stop, 7 pip target. See where my target is. My target is, you see my target is right here at the orange line. That's my first target. This thing could come all the way down. This thing could keep on going for a while. We don't know that for sure, but I would say that this target is probably pretty good. If they get a close on here, I'm still going to take my trade off. Then I may buy another pullback, and then look for this target. Any questions about what I just did here? This looks like this could be a good trade. The yen is strong on 3 of the 4 time frames. Euro is still weak. So I said these orange lines are our targets. When these lines were drawn on the up move, these are our targets on the down move. And we're making new zones. You see there, so this is where the rejection was. So this was the strong move. This is rejection. So this is really the first big move. Closely, took out, have a nice little takeout. It closed below the first target, came back up, retested, went sideways for a while. Now there was a little bit of a trend. You could almost call this trend here where it was rejected. Little trend there. This is your head fake right up here. Came up, couldn't take this one out, and then it just fell down. Came back over here, tested this pivot, went back up, and now that fact that's broken, and we have a nice little trend going here. This thing could go for a little bit of while. It's respecting the yellow moving average. So as long as you keep your stop above that yellow moving average and preferably above the blue moving average, you can maybe just keep taking this thing on down, see how far it goes, see what you can get out of it. But this could be where I would expect to bounce here, pretty much where my target is. It comes back in, bounces. I'll redraw my fib lines, and then I'll do the same thing all over again. This is what's nice about taking these little quick trades is I can take a larger lot size. I can get in, get out, take it again, get in, get out. If you take it and you're looking and you have a 100 pip stop, you get one move out of it and then you're out. This one I can get 5 on the same 100 pip move or 50 pip move. If I'm going for 5 pips, I can get in and out there maybe 3 or 4 times, and the times it takes to do one swing trade, and I can do it with 4 times the lot size. And that's why I like the get in and get out a lot, because that way you can just you can take larger lot size for tighter stops. But right now my stop I can really move the stop a little bit closer. I can even tighten this thing up down to probably I can move it down to, let's say, in between this area. So now having a 15 pip rather than having a 15 pip stop, I've got more like a 12 or 11 pip stop. What is my stop? Got in at let's see, as you saw, 21 to 32. Yeah, I've got 11 pip stop on this thing right now. And if you want to, you can just sort of keep on. You can keep on moving this thing down and wait for it to break the yellow line. So right now, this yellow moving average line is this little zone. As this line moves down, you can move your zone down a little bit and just try and keep it above whatever. What I like doing is whatever area this yellow line is in, whatever line is, I like put my stop above the next one, so I can move this thing down even a little bit further. When the yellow line gets below this one, then I can move the zone down. I can move my stop down. But right now, it's respecting this yellow line, and if it comes up in between the blue and the yellow, well, I'll be stopped out, but I'll probably hit my target before that happens. Then I'll wait for a pullback and do the whole process all over again. Let's see, Euro yen. Let me get that on another chart here. Any questions about how we did this, what we did? Now, actually, I could, this is a little wick right here. That's really the pullback right there. As it's making new lows. Once it hits my target and bounces, like here's where the bounce was, right? And here, that was the bounce. Came up, made a very, it only came up into the, well, here's the 23, came up into, barely came up into the 38% retracement of this move. Go to my 1 minute chart and you can maybe see this thing a little bit better. Here was the bounce, here was the pullback. Now it's testing out of this area, have a low green zone right here, so we'll see if it can break through that. My target's all the way down here. I barely have my spread covered.
Very difficult to see it out.
Yeah, I'm trying to expand it here a little bit. See if I can. Let's try
That's
one.
better.
That's better.
Yeah.
You can see here was the move down, here was the rejection. And then a lot of times I like to move it down to where I have two of these where move down, here's rejection. Once it breaks through the bottom of this one, then I can move this down, wait for the, once I get a new low, which I did right now, I can move this one down. I can move this one down. And now I'm looking for the pullback into the area. Here's my 23, is in the 23 zone. See if it pulls back into, this is right about where I got into the trade. So right now I'm actually a little bit because of the spread. But right now it's respecting this trend line. If it comes up and it could possibly come up and retest my trend line. My stop's way up here, so I'm still have lots of room for my stop. And you can probably keep you could probably keep your stop. I could probably move my stop all the way down to this pivot, say just a little bit above this pink zone. Now I tighten up my stop a little bit, so if it does come back and reverse on me, I'm only 6 pips underwater. I had to start off with a 15 pip stop, now I'm down to 6 pips. And I'm not that far from my target. Once my target gets another pullback. Now I may start looking for a reversal depending on how deep this thing goes, but we did say that there was lots of room to the downside. You see this trend is getting a little bit steeper. It usually gets a little bit steeper, get closer towards the reversal point. Came up, broke through the 23, couldn't break above the 38. And so the target on this one would be based on this, if I can pull it up without losing my visual here. So the target would be somewhere right about where my target zone is. But we do have a little green zone that's got to get through this thing right now. And you can see where it actually bounced, came back down, made a higher low, but I still think this thing is going to get taken out. I still think there's enough movement pushed down to the downside. Now the blue moving average is holding, so that's going to be the new area. You can see where it came back up, it tagged the blue, made a new trend line. So right now, this one is the new leading. It came back, the green came up to the yellow, could not cross the yellow, came back down. But now this thing is starting to show a little bit of a wedge down here. So we may have to bail on this thing if this thing starts reversing on us. But we're taking a shot at it. We have a little bit of a wedge right here. I want to see it break out of the bottom of this and keep on going. There's one reason I like these 1 minute charts for the entries and exits, because you can really see the price action here. Strong move down, pull back, strong move down, pull back. Took this one out, still respected the trend line. Strong move down, pull back, respected the trend line. Strong pull down, pull back. This is trending, but it's trending inside the sideways range. Tweak this up a little bit. So even though my entry is up here, if you can look and see that my commissions and my the spread with the commissions is still keeping me from being positive, even though it's my sell point was right up in here. You can see the spread. It's got a fairly decent spread. It's got almost a 2-point spread on it. 1.7 is what I'm showing on the one chart. So that means I've got to go 3 pips in order just to break even. That's a strong test of this area right here. Test of the trend line. There's an announcement coming up at 8:30. There's an announcement.
Moving. Kind of funny.
Buyers came in, drove it up. Sellers pushed it right back down again. You can see where the buyers and sellers are fighting it out right in here, especially when you start seeing this candle being real active like this. That's the kind of a sign that something's going to happen here. In fact, I'm going to move my stop down a little bit tighter above this trend line here. Now I'm only risking 3 pips. You see all these wicks in here. That's some sort of a telltale that there's a battle going on between the buyers and sellers. This was a little bit of a head fake. Went above the trend line, but couldn't close above it. I'm gonna move this thing up just a little bit higher. That's where the last price was rejected. Strong move up, hit it, reject it. So there's my anchor. Here's my hit. Now I'm looking for the third hit. We had a hit here, hit here on this trend line. Now we'll see if it can break through. Euro is still weak on several of the time frames, so I'm still in favoring of the Euro being weak, the yen being strong. I'm still looking at this thing to break to the downside. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not going to lose a lot if it doesn't pan out. Right now, where my entry was is still valid. I'm still below, still below this blue moving average. This one hasn't been penetrated except way up here off of this big move. Here's a high where it was penetrated. Here's my 60-30 line.
There it goes, broke out of that
There
way.
it goes. Boom. I'm still looking for this target of this orange line. Still looking for this target. Still hasn't hit it yet. This red line's got to get all the way down to my target in order to get filled. If the white line comes down and starts bouncing off of this, I may just pull the trade. Take what little profit I can get out of it. This thing went up to the 50%, so my target right now is right at the 50% line, which is right where my orange line is. So here's my target zone.
Oh, here, look at that move.
Here's a 50. Here's a 50 line. Right about in here. Came down, tagged it, couldn't quite close above, could close below it. Now it's retesting the wedge. So here's a break of the trend line, came back up, retesting the trend line. I can put my stop clear on the other side of this wedge. I still like it above the major wedge right here. But right now it's still making a little, but this little wick right here could be a bit of a problem. And we have one more minute for this candle to close. We'll see how this candle closes. In 1 minute it'll close. That'll be a 5-minute candle. So this thing just closed as a 5-minute candle, right in this area. That was the close. It closed below, and actually went down. Couldn't close below the orange line. This thing could possibly start going back up. This is a strong wick. Now our moving averages are still in the right direction. We just have the green, the yellow, the blue, our 62, and our 200. Now if this green starts crossing over the yellow, then I'll pull this trade. Then I'll start looking at this thing's going to be the low, looking for a nice test with a pullback. Right now I want to see this pivot get broken. But if it doesn't, one, I won't get my target hit, and two, it's going to be starting looking at maybe possible reversing. So right now here's the pivot, and we're going to see what happens here. See if it comes back down and retests this line right here, this 30th line. If it comes up, retest the trend line, rejects, that's a good thing. If it comes back into the wedge and crosses over, I'll probably just bail on about break even. You see this trend line here is holding. This one was broken. Now we have another possible trend line coming down from here to here. So we can take it from this one. There's the anchor. Here's the hit, lower low. Now this is my trend line. I can keep my stop. Move my stop a little bit tighter. And so I'll just move it straight to break even, plus a little bit. If it comes all the way back up again, if it breaks this trend line, comes back up, it's looking like it's going to be going up higher. So, but right now I'm still optimistic it's going to hit my target. Green line came up, challenged the yellow on this pullback, couldn't cross over. Now it's pointing back down, and now they're starting to get wider again. It came down, broke the trend line, came back up, retested the trend line right here, and now it's heading on back down again. This was a strong move down. This was a retest, and now looking like it's going to go down some more. Maybe.
Maybe. Question for you, Al.
Okay.
I would have been more inclined to put my take profit right above that 50, so that it would have, because you know you're going to reach resistance once it hits there. Like, is there a reason why you put it below it?
Just because that's where the 7 pips was. But oftentimes, and that's a good point, is that oftentimes you have that, and it comes. That's why a lot of times when it comes down and bounces like that, I'll just pull the trade. Normally speaking, that just happened to be where I got in, 7 pips away. But you're right. The 5 points, the 5 pips would have been just above that line. I don't think I still would have gotten triggered on this because of the spread. But yeah, oftentimes I'll put it above that target zone just because I expect to bounce, which is exactly what it did. It bounced off of that. But yeah, that's time. But I was just going for the 7. And actually, the wick never even came down to even get the sellers into that zone. So the buyers came right up in. They saw that, and the buyers came up and bet that trade. But at this point, it was rejected. So right now, it's playing inside the break of this upper trend line, and it came back down, made a higher low. Still has a lower high. But I do like this pivot, the test. It hasn't really retested. We really don't have the third hit of this trend line yet until right at this point right here. We may get a little bit of a challenge. If this comes up and breaks, I'll just pull this trade and try and get a better entry if it keeps on going short. I kind of like to keep this thing a little bit above this zone though. I don't want to get wicked out just from the spread. You can see that it couldn't quite came up in this area about a spread's worth. This is probably about 2 point spread right here between here. That's looks like about about 1.3 pips. Here's our trend line. Now it's starting to break that. Still coming down from my target, and we'll see if it can close. If we can get that close down below here, I'll be out of my trade. And I can be looking for another pullback if this thing's going to keep on going. We're getting close to the 8:30. Yeah, we're about 9 minutes away from 8:30. So if it can't get me out on this little push right now, then I'll probably just pull this trade. I'm so profitable. There's a push. A little bit harder.
It's almost like the spread gets wider the closer it gets.
Yeah, and that's what happens. Is the spread does right now it's at 1.7. Spread gets wider there. I'm just going to pull this trade there.
It's so annoying when that happens.
Yeah, they widen the spread, and but yeah, it came very close to my target. I thought, yeah, I'm just going to take this off. I got probably 6 pips out of it. Now it may go and push through, but now at this point, I already locked in some profits. So now I'm going to be looking at this, and I'm going to remove this one. Now we made some new lows. I'm going to move this one down here to this. While we have, I'm going to try to grab the fib line, pull this one down here. This line is still valid. Oops, I didn't want to do that. And now it's starting to form a little bit of a channel. Here's our upper channel. Here's our lower channel. Here's the bounce. Comes back in. We can possibly take another trade on this. Now, here's our upper 25. Here's the upper 25 of this move. Check out the green and the yellow. See if it's coming down. This could have been a diversion right here. There's an anchor. There's a hit. Here's the third hit. Bounced off. Coming on up. Now starting to take the trade. Now starting to break this upper trend line. Still have our upper 25% of this move. This thing is trying to cross. Now the question we have to ask ourselves, is this just a strong pullback or is this the beginning of a reversal? We still have the upper trend line, which is still valid. It's testing our moving average. We're getting the crossover. This is a strong move up. So from this point, I'm going to be looking at reversing this thing. If I can get my fib over here. Because it came down to the green zone. On this candle, it did not close on a 5-minute candle. You can see where, look at the time on my cursor. There's a 20-minute candle. This is 20-minute candle. This is where the 5-minute candle opened. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right now, this is, in one more minute, we'll see where the 5-minute candle closes. If I go to a 5-minute chart, you'll see that, I can't see with all this stuff on there. See, this is a green candle. You do not have a close of the 5-minute on this. So once it starts coming back up, I'm going to start looking to see if it's going to pull back and start close up here. Then we could be looking for the pullback to maybe head on up and retest this zone. But right now, that was the trade right there. This trade's over until we decide whether or not it's going to keep on going down or if it's going to go up. So right now, we're done with this trade. A new high. Remember, this is our trend line. This is the third hit of the trend line right here. Anchor, hit, retest. Hasn't retested it yet. It's going to be somewhere right around in this area. And I can draw this, if I can move this thing up. Here's my lower 25. Here's my upper 25. We'll see where it stops. I'm going to guess it's going to bounce off of the top of this somewhere. I think everybody agree that's a pretty strong rejection from this target. And now we're looking at coming up. The upper target is going to be this one up here. We have the cross of the green and the yellow. Now I can start looking for the pullback. Upper 25, lower 25. And now we're coming into our middle zone. Let's see how deep it goes. Right now, there's the high. I wouldn't want to take this thing short. Not just yet. Not at this point. So right now, we don't know if this was just a strong pullback or if this is a reversal. If it breaks this one, then this would be the next target. There's my lower 25% zone coming back in, retesting it. Strong push out, retesting it. Now we'll see what it does. All of our moving averages are still in the right direction, but they're still going strength to the downside. But remember, we have an announcement. In another 2 minutes, we're going to get some announcement. Let me see which one that was at 8:30. 8:30, we have crude oil inventory. That usually affects all the currencies because that's the oil related. And then 10:30, we have crude oil inventory reports. Again, oil related, U.S. also going to affect the Canadian dollar. Anything that's oil related is going to affect pretty much all the currencies. So right now we're having lower highs, higher lows. It's rejecting off to 20%. Moving averages are still pointing down, but we did get the first pullback here. And now if this thing starts to trend, this would be our wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 is going to be, could be way up in here. And the target would be this one right here, depending on where this thing goes. But this was the range from the low to the high. Now, wherever this thing bottoms out, that's where we're going to put the bottom of this trend line here and see where it goes.
So Al, on the 15-minute, this one, the euro yen, question from Kristen, since it closed below the previous day low, could this also be an indication that it's going to continue downward?
Absolutely, yeah. Or it could be using yesterday's low for the range that it's in right now. And actually, right now we are in the middle third of that big uptrend and the pullback. Right now we're in the pullback in that middle zone, that middle third that we talk about. And right now it's in the upper half of the middle third. These are our 3 lines that we draw on that higher time frame. Well, you see right now it's sort of stuck right in between this orange and this one. If it breaks this, then it's going down to this area. If it can't break this, it's going to come back up and retest this. Right now, it looks like it's favoring to come up and retest this line, but it's going to have to break through this trend line first. This was the upper trend line. Here's our higher time frame trend line, and now it's coming up to retest it. So we had the pull out, came back in, bounced, couldn't close below on the 1 minute chart. It couldn't close below this on a 5 minute. As I said, I'd like to see it close. We had the 1 minute close below, but we didn't get the 5 minute to close. So right now, this is just forming a wedge right here. It's just range bound right now. Still making lower highs, still retesting this area right here. I said this thing has just as much chance to go up higher as it does to go down lower. And that's why I'm staying out of it right now. We got my target, put some money in the bank, and now we're waiting to see what it's going to do. But right now it's range bound between this upper trend line. Actually, we have 2 trend lines to the upside. Here's a little upper channel right here. But right now it's got 2 trend lines it's got to get through in order to get up to this target. It's got this red zone to get through. And there really aren't any green zones below it. So there's less resistance to the downside, but it's finding the buyers coming in here. Once it breaks out of this wedge, then we have a little bit better idea. We had a little bit of a, well, here's the pullback. Here is a rejection. That's where I could put the first hit of the trend line. I can't put the trend line on until I get a rejection of a point. This was a rejection. Came back down, rejected. Now we're looking for the third hit on this somewhere. And wherever it hits again, we'd be looking at this for a target. And if that's the target, we can be looking at that's only 5 pips. That's not enough room to take the trade. But if it comes up and breaks through this target and up to here and retest this, then the pullback, we have 7 pips. Still not a lot, but it's better. Getting the crossover again. So this thing is probably starting to move to the upside here a little bit. So once it breaks this line right here, I'll move my Fibonacci line up to wherever it happens to be, wherever the break is. And I'm going to project it's going to be somewhere right around in here. It's going to probably take out this one, test this, and then come back down and retest this area. Any other pairs you want to look at while we're waiting for this thing to develop? I'll just keep this one in the inventory here. Let's see anything else. There's a 15-minute British Aussie. Let's see if there's anything here. $15-minute chart. Here's a pivot low, pivot high. This was yesterday's pivot high. You see, here's yesterday's range. There's a pivot high. Here's a pivot low. I'm on a 15-minute chart. I'm going to draw my Fibonacci's from here to here. Don't need to go much more than that. Check my range in between. See what kind of range I have in between these factors. There's 11. I like seeing no less than 7. I like seeing at least 7 pips. I got almost 12 pips in here. So right now, here's our upper 20. It pulled out of the upper 25%. And before I do get too far, I'm going to get my moving averages in here. Oh, my fib line. And right now, we're just primarily interested in the middle zones and the upper 25. Here's our trend line. Once I get this upper trend line going on, then I can start looking for that down move. Because now it came back out of here. It actually came out of the zone, came back up, retested it. Now this is the strong move I'm looking for. I'm going to mark my targets. Target 1. Target 2. Target 3. Go to a 5-minute chart, see if I have a close below any of these. Yep, I got a close. This trend line is valid. Redo my blue lines. And I'm looking now for the pullbacks. I'm looking for the straw move down. And I'm looking for the pullback into the 38 to 60, actually 38 to 50. I like to see the 23, actually I like to see in the 23 to 50 area right here and see how far it pulls back. And right now it's right into the 23 area off this little bit. We are in a green zone here, so we have to be mindful of that. But this is the first breach of the area, came back up, retested it. Now we got another 5-minute chart. Got the close. Looking at this for the target. We have here's this red zone bounce. There's an arrow. to go, but here's the green zone. You don't have a lot of room to the zone here. It's the only thing I don't like about this one. Plus, we just had one announcement. We'll see what's going to happen here. I'll go to my 1 minute chart. Same thing we're looking at, just expanded. Here's our pivot. I can move this thing over to this one. Actually, I can even move it over to this one, actually. And see how far up it goes into this. Pretty strong little bounce off that green zone. Coming up into the middle third of this move. Moving averages are still in the right direction. We're starting to get a crossover of the green and the yellow on the 1 minute chart. I don't want to be taking it while it's still shooting up like this. We do have a trend line. See where the trend lines are. Here's the high, here's the lower high. There's our upper trend. Now we have a little bit of a wick up into the top orange line for the pullback. We could possibly get another shot to the downside for the target. Zone to zone, we're looking at 12 pips. We're only going for 5 or 7 if we can get a nice little pullback on here. Green crossed the yellow. So right now this thing's going to be testing this. If it breaks through this trend line, we may have a little bit of a trap up in here. This is the 20% of this strong move down. This is the 20% retracement up in here. Lower time frame, 20% retracement. Remember, the upper time frame is the orange lines. The lower time frame are these blue lines. Here's the upper 20% coming up. That's where my trend line is. See if we get a rejection. If we do, we can maybe check and see where our strength is. The British pound is relatively strong. The Aussie is weak. I do not want to try and take this. Let's show you something here. This is a little bit of a conflict. Here's our British pound. It's about in the middle. The Aussie is strong. The Aussie is strong. The Aussie is strong. The Aussie is strong to the pound. So we'd have to favor the Aussie. So it's a pound Aussie, so it should be favoring it to the downside. Now, if I can get a 5 minute close below this orange line, then I can probably take the trade and use this area for a stop. Here's the trend line from this point. That's the higher time frame trend. We had the bounce arrow, nice little pullback off this first arrow. There's a pivot low. We did get the break. It came back right up into this trend, right up into this wedge. When it does that, you almost have to start all over again for the break of the trend line. This was a little bit of a trap. Here's a strong wick down, came back down. Couldn't really close below the body of this candle for this little pivot. This is what it means to just be reading the charts to see what's the chart telling you. It's telling me that this has some buyers coming in right around this area. It's a green zone. It's got buyers coming in. It couldn't make, we have a trend line. Here's the low. Higher time frame. Here's the hit right in there. Here's another hit right here. Breached it, rejected it. So this zone's got some strength to it. So right now it's really trading between here and here, 14 pip zone. Not enough room to take the trade. Move on to the next one. It's close. It's got some possibilities to it, but the range just isn't there to be able to take the trade to get my even to get my 7 pips. Here was a rejection. So here's the anchor. Here's the hit. Here's the third hit, rejected. Here's the anchor. Here's the hit. Waiting for the third hit. Is making a stronger move down, but what are we going to do? Here's our target. I don't even know if I have enough room to there. That's 9 pips. And the Aussie yen, the spread on this thing is, let me try and find that here. Aussie, British Aussie. It's got almost a 3 pip spread on this thing. That's a big spread. Go to our 1 minute chart and see what it looks like on the 1 minute. Let's see where this red line and the white line is. That's our spread right there. I don't like seeing it. 2-point spread is kind of normal. Less 1 to 2 is pretty normal. Anything over 2 is starting to get to be a little bit excessive on certain pairs. You're starting to get some consolidation. I'm not interested in this trade. Let's move that to the downside. Let's see if there's anything else to look at. How's our German 30 doing today? Let's see what it did with our chart here. Here's the anchor, there's rejection. Let's see how high it goes. So a strong move up, came back down, bounced off of here. Let's see the moving averages start to change. We are getting the cross of the green and the yellow. Major consolidation going on here. Nice little pullback. Here's the anchor. Here's the first hit. Move that dot right there where the dot is. So far, everything's still looking as planned, as projected. Here's our 3 target zones. We did get a 5-minute close back out of this, off this pullback. We did get a 5-minute close. Strong move out, retesting, coming back to get their buddies and see if it comes back up and start making, oops, we can take this one off. This one's not valid anymore. Let's see what this does. Let's go to a 1-minute chart. Actually, we are in the 1 minute almost. And let's see, how about announcements? Or the next announcement, I think, was at 10:30 with the crude oil inventory report. Yeah, crude oil inventory is at 10:30. And 8:30 is already past us. And then 2 o'clock we're looking at. You can see right now we had a low, here's a high, higher low, higher high, here's a rejection. Now we're going to see how, so actually I can start drawing some fibs on this one. From here to here, looking for the pullback. Here's my 23, close to 23. Here's my 38, close below the 38. Here's my 50. Moving averages are still, we had a nice strong move. The green came across all of the moving average. Now it's coming back to consolidate. The euro is still weak, so it should be more. The euro is still weak on all 4 time frames. So I would be looking at, if depending on how far this thing pulls back, if it pulls back to 50, we could be looking at this for the target up in here, which is the next up in the next orange zone. This would be the target. And I may move this down just a little bit depending on how far this thing comes in here. I like this thing to the upside. Just see if we can get out of this zone, see if we can start getting a little bit of a push. It did cross over the 200. The green crossed the 200, came back down, still held with the yellow. So right now this is still a pullback. When I see this green crossing the yellow again, then we may be able to take a trade long on this one. Drop is basing. So basically it's retesting this middle zone right in here. The further this thing pulls back, the stronger the upside move is going to be. We'll see if it wicks below. Again, I want to see it on a 5-minute chart. I'd like to see the close on the 5-minute. We did get a 5-minute close into this zone. Still moving down, we're still retesting. See if it's going to test the trend line. This is our lower 25 coming into this area. There's our lower 25. Here's our middle zone. And then the upper 25 is going to be up in here on the lower time frame that we're talking about, not the higher time frame. We're doing the same thing on the lower time frame as we do with the upper time frame. See if it comes down and tags it, and then see if it comes back up and rejects. Let me move some of these out of the way just so we don't get things confused. So looking to respect the trend line. Here's an anchor. Here's the hit. And here would be the next target. And we wait. Questions?
I've got nothing. No questions.
I said, we're not here to really know, we are here to take trades and make some money, but what's really the goal of this room is to show you the price action thought process so that you can, we're trying to teach you guys how to fish so that you can catch your own fish. And by spend the time on this to see the whole price play out candle by candle, it's basically we're looking at candle by candle price action. And I'm just sharing my thought process as what I'm looking for to get into the trades and where my targets are to get out of the trade. I'm not a swing trader. I pretty much just, you can call it scalping if you like. I guess if you're going for less than 50 pips, you're probably scalping. If you're going for no less than 10 pips, it's probably in the scalping range. But we're just trying to grab our daily bread, so to speak. So I'm still looking for this trend line to be tested the third time. And it's going to be right into this 20% zone. See if it works into this zone, see if it works out, it comes back out. We may be able to take the trade and then use this for our stop. If we did that, we only have a, see, German, we're only looking at about, that's about, still about $7 stop. It's still a significant amount of money on one position. Actually, good rule of thumb with the German theory is say 0.01 per thousand in your account. So I've got about 4,000 in this account. So I can go with a 0.04. I'll put that right up here in this little window. Now, if I do take this trade, that'll be my lot size. Have a bounce right into this 20%. Waiting for the green to cross the yellow and then move on up to some target zones. This thing pulled back to the 76 area. So the target in this thing could actually be all the way up here. If I take about like that, use this bottom area, this trend line for the target. And I can probably do maybe a buy stop right about in this area. That way, if it comes up, pulls me in, gets me in. And I still have enough room to this zone to be able to get some profit. That'd be almost a $6 profit on that. I like this pullback. This is the third rejection. It hasn't really quite didn't really quite get all the way down to the trend line, but did hit this 20% zone. Once it breaks through this 38, then we could be good looking up to retest, at least to retest this area right in here. That would be about an $8 move. These are some hits on the trend line. Here's a hit, rejected, hit, rejected. So I'm not in this trade yet. There's a little channel right there. And see, this candle is going to close right about, I'm going to mark the candle close, the 5-minute candle close on the hour. Actually, we only have a couple more minutes. Don't forget, there should be somebody in the other room. I don't know if they are or not today. I don't know if that Jackie's going to be there or if anybody's going to be there today, but we'll see.
Apparently, I've heard that Jackie is changing her times and she's going to be doing right before Nate from midnight to 2 a.m. Eastern.
So nobody's doing the 9
Well,
on?
That I don't know, but I just know what Jackie will be doing.
Okay, so she's going to be doing the late night sessions, huh?
Yeah, from midnight. I guess Nate starts at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard, so I guess Jackie goes from midnight to 2.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that, but I guess
I heard it from our attendees this morning.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, I trust them more than I trust my anything I've been told.
Oh, Dante is back, Cheryl says.
Oh, okay. Well, we can maybe try and see if Dante's in the room this morning after we get done here. But like I said, we are going to be done here about another minute. So anyway, any last minute questions before we go? Questions, comments? And I just want to make one announcement that there's a good chance that I may not be here one of the mornings this week. I'm not sure when that may or may not be. We have a baby coming along the way, and I've got to go to Atlanta to visit the newborns whenever that happens. So depending on when the little guy arrives, then I may be here, I may not. If I could get on, I'm down in Atlanta, then I will. If not, we'll just have to maybe postpone the session till the next day. But so I'll put an announcement in the chat, in the official Hawkeye chat box, so that if I'm not going to be here, you'll be able to see that. Okay. And yes.
Well, Kristen is saying that Corey is going to be doing one of the sessions. He'll be doing the New York session.
Okay. Well, let's go and wrap this up and go over and see who's doing this session. Maybe we can learn something from that. With that, thanks everybody for coming in. Hopefully somebody made a little bit of money this morning. I made just a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. We got one trade in, and about ready to take another trade here to the long side on this German 30. So with that, take care, stay green, stay safe. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
Hey everyone, see you later. Have a great day.